With just a single word, a hand-drawn line, or an incision on paper, Zarina Hashmi manages to tell a complex story about memory and displacement. Let's explore how her works that draw from her memories of partition and the loss of her childhood home have defined the movement of minimalist abstraction in India. The 1947 partition divided British India into the separate nation-states of India and Pakistan, impacting the lives of millions. This was a defining moment in Zarina's childhood in Aligarh, as she saw several of her family members displaced following this event. Her woodcut print dividing line references the Radcliffe Line, which divided the two nations. Here, the personal collides with the political, as we see traces of the artist's hand clearly in the jagged, roughly carved line representing the border between India and Pakistan. In this print, Zarina zooms into the line itself, which, despite its abstract form, remains legible and resonant to many. Similarly, in her series of prints titled Atlas of My World, she emphasizes the geopolitical boundaries of nations and regions across the world that she has lived in. In her representation of the partition in this work, the dividing line extends far beyond the Indian subcontinent itself, highlighting its brutal impact. In the late 1950s, Zarina's family migrated from Aligarh to Pakistan, resulting in the loss of her childhood home. This, accompanied by her subsequent moves around the world, initially through her brief marriage to a diplomat and then independently, left a deep imprint on her practice, which dealt intimately with the longing for a place to call home. We see this evoked through prints that show real and imagined maps, architectural ground plans, and grids of triangles that she termed spaces to hide. In her most ambitious project, Home is a Foreign Place, she features abstract images accompanied by single-word captions in her mother tongue Urdu through a series of 36 woodcut prints. In the first print in the series, titled Home, we see a simple geometric composition that represents the floor plan of the house she grew up in. This nostalgic representation has been a recurring theme in her works and is also reflected in her series, Letters from Home, that comprises 8 prints, centered on deeply personal letters that her sister wrote to her in Urdu, describing painful memories of loss. Here, Zarina overlays the calligraphic text of the letters with abstracted imagery like maps and floor plans that evoke their shared memories. In addition to invoking memories, her move to New York in the 1970s also influenced her practice in other ways. Here, she felt an affinity with the prevalent minimalist movement, which led her to experiment further with her medium. Adopting the visual language of minimalism, Zarina shifted the focus from the printed image to the materiality of her surfaces. Instead of using ink, her images would be formed from within the paper itself, through acts of incising, perforating, and scratching the surface, like in her pin drawing series from the late 1970s. Completed shortly before her estranged husband's death in 1977, the series is imbued with a meditative character through the disciplined act of repeatedly puncturing the sheets of paper. The resulting image and condition of the surface recalls the impact of her personal memories, as well as her lasting impressions of socio-political crises like the Partition. By abstracting complex images, Zarina transforms intangible emotions of longing, nostalgia, or loss into material forms. Through her practice and approach to minimalism, we see how simple lines and forms can be charged with both deeply intimate memories as well as political and historical meaning.